Well, hello, welcome to ILoveGay today. And we're in Brooklyn, New York today. We're going to have some fun. We're here with Zachary Zane. How are you, Zachary?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Fantastic. I was looking forward to connecting with you, but primarily because everywhere I turned, whether it was on Twitter, whether it was on, kind of finding articles out there about LGBT life, it's like you kept popping up. And I was like, who is this guy?
Good. It means my publicist is doing a great job. So I'm happy to hear that.
Well, actually, what first intrigued me about you, I see this article, and it was, I believe it was in Men's Health, but it was set in Switzerland, and you're talking so, and I've been very involved in the LGBT world of travel for many years, and including Switzerland used to be a client like 20 years ago.
Oh,
So I
wow.
so I understand some of that, but I'm reading your article and I'm realizing that things have changed a lot because here you are, kind of in Switzerland talking about things that they just never would have wanted to touch on before, which is, a gay or bisexual man's life running around through the country. And that seemed to work well for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they knew exactly what they were going to get when they invited me on that press trip. I saw the other articles that other journalists wrote on that press trip, and it was definitely much more traditional.
Yeah.
But so it was a press trip through like the tourism board of Switzerland, and they wanted specifically to be an LGBTQ press trip, presumably because older gays are dinks, double incomes, no kids. They like traveling, but you never hear like, a gay man be like, oh, let's go to Zurich. It's always like, let's go to Berlin, let's go to Paris, let's go to Amsterdam. So they want gay men to start going there. And when they reached out to me, I'm like, I'm a sex and relationship writer. Like, I'm not going to like review the hotel or like talk about the food. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yes, we've seen your content. I'm like, so be it.
Yeah.
So I kind of spoke about how quote unquote gay Switzerland was. I went to gay saunas there and wrote about my experience with that. We
Yeah.
kind of learned about the history. There's actually kind of a rich history of actually LGBTQ like activism and inclusion in Switzerland that wasn't in the rest of Europe at the time.
Yeah.
Uh, at the Natural History Museum there, they had like this LGBTQ exhibit, but I wrote it in a way that was extremely raunchy, which is kind of my style of writing. I like to be graphic, I like to be explicit. And it's not just for the shock value. I think there's power in, openly discussing sex. And when you're actually talking about your attractions or what you were doing, we should not be ashamed. We should be able to discuss these things openly. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important to do. So I do so in that article, but a lot of my articles at Men's Health and elsewhere.
Yeah. And even when we come back, because I love some of the articles, even elsewhere, but you had a book release yesterday, Boyslut, a memoir and manifesto.
Sure did. This book is everywhere. Books are sold. It is on Amazon. It is on Bookshop. It is at bookstores. It is Boyslut, one word. Um, and yes, I've been working on this book for nearly 5 years. So the fact that it is out, I've just been beaming. So excited.
Yeah.
But it is a book first and foremost on how to overcome sexual shame. And
Yeah.
of course, I write this through my lens, which is bisexual, polyamorous, and very kink positive. And it really, I think the biggest compliment I've been receiving so far about people who've read my book, and it's pretty awesome. It's been out for one day, and I woke up to like 12 messages being like, I read it overnight. I couldn't put it down. It was amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God people like it. Oh, thank God. Um, but it really, I think the biggest compliment I've been getting is they've never read a book like this. And this is not your traditional kind of gay memoir. It's not a little boy from the South who grew up in a religious household, gets kicked out of his family for being gay, moves to New York City, finds his chosen family, and lives happily ever after.
Yeah.
It's not about that. I kind of talk about how I grew up actually in a very like queer affirming household. I had gay uncles on both sides of my family. I grew up with, liberal Jews in Los Angeles. We were not very sex negative. We were very gay friendly. And still, I had so much sexual shame.
Yeah.
And that's because I live in society. I live in the world. And it's so pervasive. It's so insidious. And you pick up these messages from your teachers, from your peers, from culture, media, everything else. So even if you have more important or supportive parents, you still can't escape kind of the reach of sex negativity because we exist in this world. And then, over the course of the book, I talk about how I was really able to overcome that sexual shame and a lot of that was through finding my community, finding my people, finding my bisexual, polyamorous, kinky fuckers, is what makes me feel seen and not alone and supportive and loved, and how important that is. And I really talk about how to go about finding that, because a lot of bi people don't know where to meet other bi people. You know, we don't have bi clubs the same way. It's challenging to be visibly bisexual. You know, you can't kind of like, you know, if a man's in a relationship with a man, you assume he's gay. If he's in a relationship with a woman, assume he's straight. So it's like, you can't really see a bisexual person. There aren't spaces to meet them. So how do I find this community? And that's a lot what I talk about in this book.
Yeah, nice. Actually, I really enjoyed. I read the interview you did with Extra. I love the folks up there at Extra, and that came out
That
really.
was so fabulous. They
It
did such a
was
great job with that, and asked such great, compelling questions.
the my biggest takeaway was that you hope your grandmother doesn't end up reading this book.
She is 91 years old. She just got a pacemaker put in. I don't want to put that thing to use. I can't have her having a heart attack. I have enough therapy at this point. I can't have her death on my watch.
But what's interesting is even in your your experience and background for putting together for the book, yeah, one of the things, organizing sex parties, those things have been done for many many years in the gay world, but in the bisexual world, I have to assume that there's some little tips and tricks in there to be able to make that work.
Yeah, so like sex parties are kind of like, obviously we have gay sex parties. I've been to 10 million of them and I absolutely fucking love them. It is my happy place. And then there are more straight sex parties or like swinger sex parties. And then I've noticed that when sex parties say they're queer, they're not actually super queer. It means that the women are hooking up with women and also men, but the men are exclusively hooking up with women. It's actually somewhat challenging to have like a bisexual sex party where it's like men are hooking up with men. I want MFMs, MMFs. I want MMFFFM.
Yeah.
I want this guy getting pegged while sucking on some dude's dick. I want it to be every configuration humanly possible. But I've noticed that this isn't often the case. And I think there are a few reasons why. I think still a lot of bi men feel uncomfortable being sexual with other men around women.
Yeah.
I think we've often been told by women that it is gross, or we're afraid that you're gay, and using bi as a stepping stone label. So we don't feel that comfortable embracing, same-sex intimacy or just sex with other men in front of women. And no one wants to be the first guy to do it. You know what I mean? But because I've been to these queer sex parties and the guys are bi. I've seen them I've been to gay sex parties with them. They still won't do anything in front of women. Yeah. And, it's obviously I enjoy it because I threw this party called Boyslut, and I plan on doing another one now that this book is finished and I can focus on other things after my little press tour here. And of course, it was just hot because it was a fun sexual experience, and I actually got DP'd by two women with strap-ons, which I've never done before, and that was an interesting experience, among other things that I did. But that was at least a first for me. But it was really incredible to see how affirming the space was for bisexual people. It wasn't just about the sex itself. It was about feeling a part of this community, being surrounded by other bi people, not feeling like, oh, they have to put on their gay hat tonight or their straight hat tonight and can only engage with one aspect of their identity or their sexuality. And that's what I wanted. I didn't just want a sex party. I really wanted this to be a community, to feel welcomed and loved and embraced. And that is what happened. And then, of course, on top of the really hot sex. So it was win-wins all around here.
Wow. Nice. Well, it's interesting as you're talking about that and you're bringing your own personal life into that. That's what I from what I understand, but I have not read the book. You bring a lot more of yourself to it. And I think one of the things I read was that you're more vulnerable in this book.
So I have like a digital zine on Substack. It started as a newsletter, and then I started publishing work from other people.
Yeah.
It's also called Boyslut, which I don't know if is great branding or confusing, but so Boyslut the zine is now just turned into like nonfiction erotica. So real sex stories that happen, and it is raunchy, it is graphic, it is explicit. I think the last piece I had that came out, literally the title. Also, my titles. I pride myself in my titles. They're always ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah.
I think the title was like, I came hands free while getting throat fucked because I'm a disgusting pervert. Like I just like lean into just the raunchiness of it. But because I've been doing this for a while and writing about my sex life in graphic detail for a while, people assume that I'm open and vulnerable in everything else in my life. But like, if you notice on Twitter or Instagram or even in that, it's like I actually only talk about sex. And to me, that's not necessarily super vulnerable. I'm not talking about my relationship with my family. I'm not talking about my breakups. You'll notice I never really talk about breakups on social media. I don't say anything negative. I don't like, even though I have OCD and anxiety, I only talk about it in like a light and humorous way, as opposed to like the way it's really impacted my life.
Yeah.
So this book is less graphic, although there are certainly, if you're a kinky fucker, there's certainly some things here. But you know, it's a memoir. It's trying to explain my story, and I'm hopefully creating a little bit of a movement here. It's a call to arms. But I'm sharing parts of myself and parts of my life that I really haven't before. And that is what makes it vulnerable to me and scary and intimidating, that people are reading this, and that, you know, tens of thousands of people are going to know so much about me. And that's a scary thought.
Well, you're jumping out in the middle in the fray, right? You're going on a press tour.
Yeah, I sure am. Yeah, so I'll be in, I have a few more readings in New York. I just started here in New York. I'm in Boston. When is this coming out? I should have asked.
Today and tomorrow.
Amazing. Okay, so good. I wasn't sure if it was like 2 weeks from now, which point it'll be done. No, so I'm in Boston tomorrow, May 11th, but then I'm in LA and SF May 16th and May 17th, then Chicago, Nashville, and then weirdly enough, Montana in June for Pride.
Wow.
But yeah, so it was really important for me to like book signings and book readings. Like my publicist, he's like, it doesn't actually get you that many sales, right? Like these are people who would have bought your book anyway. And it's much more important to get on a podcast, to get an interview, to open, to reach new audiences. But I kind of explained to him, I'm like, I'm going to get a lot of hatred for this book. It is, you know, I don't think it's that controversial, but people will.
Yeah.
And obviously Republicans and conservatives are going to fucking hate me. Jordan Peterson already like tweeted about me and it. And I was like, oh, Jesus, fuck. But like, but also, you know, of course I might upset the liberals and progressives too. I could upset everyone. And I'm like, I need to kind of interact with my readers and my audience and my fans who are telling me these kind and positive things about how I changed their life, as a sort of like mental buffer. So when I get bad reviews or when people shit on me, whatever it is, I'm like, no, remember that I had my audience and I'm really actually am doing what I'm setting out to do. I am having a positive impact. I am helping people. And that really is the goal. Which is kind of why I have this big press tour. I was like, I need this for myself. I need this for my mental health. So I'm really excited, and I get to meet everyone, and I get to share, you know, different tidbits that you don't get to read in the book. So something a little bit different, and a little special.
Excellent. I mean, I really look forward to following all this on social media, which I know you're going to be very good at.
Yeah.
So, no, mostly I'm just really glad that you were able to, you know, kind of share a few moments, take a few moments of your time and share your story with our audience. And
thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And look forward to connecting in the real world.
Awesome. Yeah. Look forward to meeting you IRL.
Thanks again now.
Thank you.
Feels good, so good.